I'm back. I have different hair. Look at this. I have a bruise and scratches on my arm. What's going on with me? This video is coming up so much later than I meant for it to. It was supposed to be up last Friday. It is now, I don't know when I'm uploading this, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm sorry. Life happens, and here we are. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be discussing two books that I received in exchange for honest reviews. I said I was going to put this up last Friday, and I didn't, so we're going to talk about it now. Before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell icon so you know when I upload new videos. I upload 3 days a week, theoretically. I know I didn't upload last week at all, but life happens. Life finds a way. The first book that I'm going to talk about today is Hospital by Han Song. Disclosure, of course, Hospital was sent to me by the publisher in exchange for honest reviews, so thank you to Amazon Crossing and Wonderkin PR for sending me this physical copy. Here she is. Look how gorgeous this book is. I have to show you the naked hardback as well, because physically, this is one of my new favorite books that I own. I think it's absolutely stunning. The peacock pattern, spectacular. But the physical appearance of the book might be my favorite thing about it, and possibly my only favorite thing about it. Hospital was first published in Chinese in 2016 by Han Song. There is a Chinese publisher, but I'm not going to try to pronounce the name because I don't think I can, but it was published in Shanghai. Han Song is known in China for writing experimental, hard-hitting, sometimes satirical examinations of Chinese politics, governments, and institutions. Some of his other works explore the stress of metropolitan China and China's relationships with America. I wasn't in any way familiar with Han Song's work before being reached out to by Amazon Crossing to review this book, and obviously I'm reviewing the 2023 translated edition by Michael Berry, because I don't read Chinese. Shocking, I know. So the publisher, when they reached out to me, they pitched it as a dystopian sci-fi horror examining the medical system in China. I adore medical fiction. The more horrific, the better. I think it's fantastic. They reached out to me on Instagram. They had seen that that's the sort of thing that I review sometimes, and reached out to me based on that. I said yes, because it sounded great. Is this book dystopian? Yeah. Is it sci-fi or horror? Kind of. On my first read through of Hospital, I was just floored by how confused and uncomfortable I was. And I love being made uncomfortable by books, but this was a different kind of uncomfortable. This was weird. I know that Hospital is meant to be a representation of the medical systems and ethics and institutions in China and how impossible they are to navigate and utilize, similar to America and you know, a ton of other places, but it is particularly prevalent in China as far as I know. So that aspect definitely came through, but the translated prose just fell so flat for me. The book was a nightmare to get through. I almost DNF'd it so many times. I didn't though, because I don't like DNFing books that I have made a commitment to read, especially when they're so pretty and given to me by publishers for free. I have to assume that the prose is Michael Berry's fault. Like, I don't want to blame somebody, but if I was going to blame someone, it's the translator, because Han Song is a Chinese Nebula and Galaxy award-winning author, and I've read a couple of criticisms of Michael Berry's translations and how they are incredibly dry, and I personally feel like this book just doesn't work in English for a Western audience. Genuinely, I don't even feel totally comfortable reviewing this version of the book because it's not for me. I didn't get it. I'm definitely not saying that me or we as a Western audience shouldn't be consuming media and writing and work from other parts of the world. We absolutely should be, but I don't think that I should be any kind of authority on the quality of this book or its message or anything. I don't know. And that's actually reflected in the abysmal 2.5-star rating on Goodreads for the English version of Hospital. I perused the reviews after finishing it because I was just so baffled and confused, and I was like, am I just crazy? Like, do other people feel this way? So I went through the reviews. They are almost exclusively from white Westerners like myself, talking about how just dry and confusing. I know I've used those two words specifically multiple times now, but that is how I feel. The reviews are all very similar. People do not like this book, and by people I mean white Westerners. The reviews do also criticize the overuse of rape, sexual assault, and incest in the book, which I do agree with. It was a lot. More than is reasonable in my opinion. I did find one review on Goodreads though that I found very interesting. It is by a woman named Sunny C, who I have to assume is Chinese or Chinese American based on her review. It's not directly stated and I can't just assume. She talks about how Asian characters in translated works are often criticized by English-speaking white Western audiences for feeling flat and underdeveloped and unrelatable, and therefore the book is bad. But in reality, it's actually just cultural differences that aren't properly picked up on. She also criticizes Michael Berry's translation and his translator's notes for missing the finer details and nuances of the book and what the story is really about, which also involves Chinese censorship, and she notes that Han Song actually works for a Chinese media company as well, so that's a really important part of the story that is completely missed. She also cites better translations by Chinese English translators like Ken Liu, who translated, oh, I don't have them beside me anymore, they moved, but Ken Liu translated The Three-Body Problem and its sequels. Anyways, I don't know what the heck else to say about this book other than that the physical copy is beautiful and I'm excited to have it on my shelf. I think it's very pretty and it's weird. It's strange. You might enjoy it. It's just hard to physically read, which is unfortunate. I think maybe I would love to see a different translation of the book and I might enjoy it more. I've not been in this situation before where I'm like, I think the book is good, but the English translation is not. So what do I do? I don't think that this book has been given a fair shot for a Western audience. The second book that we're going to talk about today is the AULE Stratagem Part 1 Slave Ship by David Clegg. I was given an electronic copy by David Clegg, who reached out to me on Twitter. So I don't have a physical copy, so here's the cover. It's really nice. He also sent me part 2 of his book, both of which I was sent in exchange for honest reviews. Today I'm just going to be talking about part 1 because I've interspersed them because they are 2 full-length novels. So we're going to talk about part 2 in June probably. The AULE Stratagem is a piece of military science fiction set in space with all of the vibes of Star Trek, Babylon 5, Andromeda, things like that. The opening sequence to part 1, Slave Ship, actually made me think so much of the opening of the first Star Trek film with Chris Pine. I can't remember the name of the movie now, but the first one that Chris Pine was in, the opening sequences had all of the same vibes, and I didn't even realize at the time that Star Trek was a major influencer for David Clegg, so good job, you did it. Slave Ship is a classic space pirate versus space navy adventure, hitting a lot of the expected story beats and character beats. It was a little on the predictable side for me, but military fiction often is because it has a specific arc that it follows because that is what the target audience likes. So when it comes to mil-fi, which is a hilarious term to me, you kind of know what you're going to get before you even start. The naval and military knowledge was very strong and the science was very sound. David Clegg cites his resources on the science at the end of part 1. So obviously he did the work, which as a fellow science fiction space writer, I know is very important and can be very difficult to get right, so good job. I also am coincidentally writing a new manuscript with naval officer characters in it, so based on my research, the naval knowledge was really good. I was intrigued by the characters and I felt like they were well represented. I would have loved for the book to be a little pacier, for the prose to be a little tighter in some sections, but overall it's a really solid piece of military space opera and it's worth checking out. I have started part 2 like I said, but I'm spacing it out with all of the other stuff I'm reading right now, so we're going to talk about part 2 in June. I will show you the cover though. Here it is. Another really nice cover. Before I go, don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell icon so you know when I upload new videos. I upload 3 days a week. I will be uploading 3 days a week, I promise. I know I never keep my promises. I'm sorry I keep hurting you. I'm sorry our relationship is so toxic. I love you guys. Goodbye!